All right, so you made your first wood-burning stove, be it a rocket stove or hobo stove or whatever, but now you're looking for a pot stand. Well, here's what you can make with just a little bit of hanger strap and a little bit of time. And I'm going to show you how to do it today. All right, so the idea to come up with some kind of collapsible or folding or easy to put away type pot stand started with my Encamp stove. If you remember when I had it, I felt that it was a little bit too low. Now I know that they're going to be addressing that in the future with their future stoves, but I'll show you what I meant. Here's the stove itself, and these little offsets aren't high enough to get enough oxygen in there. Now it worked, don't get me wrong, it worked great, and it burned every little last bit of wood in that thing, but they weren't high enough to get a good fire going, I thought. So what I came up with at first was, I was looking at this hanger strap, and I figured, well, I'll just cut two pieces and notch them and put them like that. But it didn't work because they were really wobbly. You know, they moved side to side, you know, and they wouldn't stand straight. So I figured, well, I'll put a nut in the middle of them and fan them out flat and rest them on this. Well, that didn't work either because they kept falling off. So then I thought, well, I'll put a nut in the middle and twist the edges. So after about 4 or 5 experiments, I came up with that. Now this will allow a pot to sit up here and have enough air, and you can still toss wood in there, but it'll have enough air to breathe, okay? The neat part about this is if you leave that screw in the middle tight there, that bolt, is it folds up, whoops, wrong way, into something that small. So I'm going to show you how to make this, and I'm actually going to make a specialty one. I'm going to move this out of the way and show you what it'll work on. I'm going to make a specialty one for my large hobo stove. You remember this guy, this is my strainer stove, and this fits perfectly on here. You know, it doesn't need to be centered as long as it's just there. Now what I'm going to do with the one that I'm making for my hobo stove, and this is a project I made like 3-4 years ago, give you a quick look at it, is I'm going to make one a little bit longer, and we're going to notch where the ends meet there. See where that is? So I'm going to put a little notch in there so it fits right in, and when I'm done with it, it folds right up, tosses in there, and it's portable. Now, this is galvanized steel, so your first time you burn it, you're going to want to burn it outside. As you can tell, I've already used this a few times. You want to get all the coating off if you're worried about that. The coating is like infinitesimal, but still, for safety's sake, if you want to burn it off outside the first time. I actually did it in that other stove over there, the little silverware strainer stove, and I put it in there with a ton of wood and just let it burn until it was done. And it burned off all the coating, the galvanized coating. So, the first thing you're going to want to do is cut 3 pieces of this. So I'm going to cut 3 pieces. They don't have to be even, but they do need to be a little bit longer than this guy here. So I'm going to cut 3 pieces of it, and you're going to need a Dremel tool and a cutoff wheel for that, or some really good tin snips. It is a fairly simple project, but you're going to need a few things, and we'll go through that as we do it. And we're going to cut that off and get you 3 even pieces. All right, so we got 3 even pieces here. This end is going to be the end that I trim down and make neat. They're a little bit long, but first thing we want to do is get them as straight as possible. And that can be done pretty much by hand with this stuff. It's fairly easy to bend this stuff and kind of put it where you want it. If you have a vise, you can stick it all in there together and kind of bend it straight. This will just make doing the project a little bit easier. And I'll explain to you what we're going to do with the vise in a little bit. But as you can tell, I'm just getting these fairly, I mean, you know, eyeball straight. They don't need to be perfect, just by bending it with my hand. So we're going to move on to the vise next, and I'm going to show you where I make this bend and how I do it with all 3 in unison. And that's going to be our next step. All right, I'm over here at my vise. Now you could do this with 2 of these and just twist them, but I like using the vise because it makes for a little bit neater work. You can see I got all my holes lined up. I have a little mark there. That's about where I want to stick the end of these. Stick that in there. I want to try and keep them even and level as possible. Okay. Now I've got it set in there, and I'm just going to twist. I'm going to take this and just kind of twist it to get the angle I want. And it's not going to be perfect right away. I'll have to work on it a little. But I'm going to twist it, get it straight, and keep twisting until I get that twisted angle that I'm looking for. There we go. That's a little better. So let's open it up and see how we did. Yeah, see? There you go. Now again, these are all going to be, funky. We can trim that down later. But for now, you've got that, and these can fan out, like so. Now, because of that, we're going to have to trim back here, but first we're going to put that nut in the middle. Now, you can reduce the next step that I'm going to do by getting the correct size bolt, but this was what I had left over, actually, from my silverware strainer stove. These were the feet from it. And I didn't feel like going out and buying a ever so slightly smaller bolt, so I had to hollow out these holes a little bit. You want to kind of keep these in the same order, by the way, when you're doing this, so you remember where everything is, so it all fits together. If you mix them up, they could be a little confusing. I think I have them mixed up. There we go. See, wouldn't fit together because of that. So anyway, there's your three. You're going to put that bolt through the hole there and tighten it up. So I'm going to drill out the center in these a little tiny bit, and we're going to put that in. And yes, it's long, so yeah, you're going to have to trim it again. You could buy the correct size bolt if you want. I'm just using leftovers here. So let me get that all set up, and I'll show you what the next step is after that. All right, so I was able to open those up a little bit, nice and even. I just used this little tip on a Dremel, and now this will almost screw right in there perfectly. But you see where the problem's going to be, and that's our next step. We'll get into that in a second. The back ends here are going to bump into each other when I try to open it all the way up. So what we're going to do, we fan it out and I'll show you. See? That one won't get past here, and that one won't get past there, and it could be messy. So I'm going to even that all up on the end. It even has trouble closing now. So I'm going to even it all up on the end, and we're going to make it nice and even and rounded. And then we'll get to the front here and straighten it out a little bit more, make it a little more even, round off the edges, and make our notches for our hobo stove. All right, so we got the edges nice and rounded now. Now it unfolds neatly, without the backs of those hitting into anything. Now, as we can tell, that's really, really, really big for our project here, which is going to be this top. So what I'm going to do is mark it out and cut in little slots. So this is kind of in the center. I want this to be as centered as possible. I'm going to cut out little slots for the side of the can to fit right into the stand. So give me a second to do that, and then we're going to cut off that bottom part of the bolt, and we'll get that all cleaned up. But I'm going to get the things marked out. All right, we've got the notches cut in. I did cut them a little extra wide so it gives it a nice snug fit, because what I did was I made the marks, but then I realized I could just close it up and cut it all in one place where one mark was. So I wanted to have it a little bit of a snug fit. So when you're getting this on and off, like that, okay? And you'll just put these two on and snap that one in, and there you go. That's not going anywhere. So now I'm going to cut off the bottom bolt here, the bottom part of the bolt, and trim up the sides. But the sides, let's see. I want to do this on camera so I can kind of give you an idea. I want to go one hole out on each one. So I'm probably going to cut it about here and around the edges. So let's do that first to make it look nice, and then we'll cut the bottom bolt there and tighten everything down and see how it looks. All right, so there you go. Rounded off the edges a little bit. Makes it look nicer, but also keeps you from getting your fingers chopped up by the sharp edges. I'm going to cut off that bottom piece, and I would burn this in on video, but it's pouring rain out there today in the desert, and my wood's wet, and I'm just not feeling it. So we're just going to do this for now, and we'll use it in another video, and we'll burn it in then. But yeah, when you want to burn it the first time, if you're worried about the galvanized coating, you definitely want to burn it outside. So let me cut off that bottom, and I'll give you a final close-up look of everything, and that's about it. All right, so here's the finished product. That's what it looks like. Came out really, really nice. Easy to open. Of course, I say that now, and it won't open for me. You do have to get your nails in there. I swore it was easy to open. There you go. Now you just give it a little turn on that knot, and you're going to need to tighten that up as you go along, because it will come loose. I guess you could use some Loctite on it, but I don't think you'd really want it that tight, because you still want it to be able to open up. And there you go. That's what it'll look like installed. Easily put a pot on top of that. Here's an example. Right? Fits right on there. Nice and stable. Another thing I didn't think about as I was doing this, I looked over, and I keep this veggie steamer that's kind of like a little veggie steamer stove over there, and it sits on top of this just for storage. And I didn't think about it, but for those of you guys that use these veggie steamers for burning wood, I bet you, let's see, would it work? Look at that. That is awesome. There, so you no longer have to worry about putting something on top of your veggie steamer to hold it open and make it work as a pot stand. So anyway, that's my idea for the day. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's a very simple thing to make. You do need a few tools. You probably wouldn't if you wanted to just do it by hand and rough it, but you know, I like the way it came out. Looks pretty neat. Fairly simple to make, and most of the hassle with cutting that off and everything could have been avoided by getting the right size bolt and nut, so that's no big deal. But I really like it. I'm pleased with the work so far. This one worked really, really well when I used it. So now I have a bigger one for this. Good old hobo stove that I made a long time ago. So that's the video for today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like the content, we mostly do outdoor, survival, camping related type content here. With a little bit of guns and knives thrown in on occasion. If you like the content, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out our Amazon store down below. We have pretty much every item that we review in the store. And if there's nothing in the store you like, just click the link and shop as you normally would on Amazon. Doesn't cost you anything else, and it helps out the channel. And don't forget to check out our Thrive Life link down below. Lots of good freeze-dried food for stocking up on. Definitely a good idea these days and these times to be stocked up on food so you don't have to worry about it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Stay safe and stay prepared.